15,000 pounds of food for 130 people to survive 3 months on a US submarine.
Beneath the surface of the world's oceans, a hidden civilization drifts silently through black water. No lights on the horizon, no sound from the sky, just pressure, darkness, and the faint hum of machinery inside a steel shell hundreds of feet below. Here, in a world that has no weather, no day or night, 130 people live, work, eat, and sleep for months at a time without ever touching land. This is not science fiction. This is life aboard a modern nuclear submarine. For most of us, the idea of living underwater for 3 months feels almost impossible. The thought of being sealed in metal, without sunlight or fresh air, is claustrophobic even to imagine. But for the men and women of the submarine force, it is routine. A quiet, relentless kind of duty where survival depends on order, precision, and trust. Once the hatches close and the last line is cast off, the submarine ceases to exist on the map. There are no GPS pings, no surface signals, no phone calls home. It becomes a ghost, known only to a handful of people thousands of miles away. Every dive is a one-way journey into isolation. Inside, space is so limited that every inch has been engineered, measured, and accounted for. Corridors are narrow enough that 2 sailors passing each other have to turn sideways, moving like clockwork gears. Every handle, every pipe, every switch has its place. Nothing extra, nothing decorative. Function replaces comfort, and order becomes the only form of freedom. Time itself is reshaped. There are no sunrises, no sunsets. The crew lives by the rhythm of the ship. A cycle of watches. 6 hours on duty, 12 hours off, repeating endlessly. The concept of morning and night vanishes. Some newer submarines now use a 24-hour schedule, dividing the day into 3 8-hour watches to ease the strain on the body's internal clock. It helps the mind remember that time still moves forward, even in the dark. Sleep, however, remains one of the hardest parts of life underwater. The sleeping quarters, called berthing, are stacked 3 high. Each bunk is barely longer than a grown man, and only a few inches taller than his shoulders. When you lie down, the ceiling is right there, close enough to touch with your forehead. Curtains provide the illusion of privacy. On many submarines, there are more people than beds, so the crew shares them in shifts, a system known as hot bunking. When one sailor finishes his watch, he crawls into the same bed that another has just vacated. The sheets are still warm, sometimes still creased with the imprint of another body. It's not ideal, but it's efficient. And efficiency is what keeps the boat alive. Veterans say that after a few weeks, they stop noticing the size of the space. The body adjusts, the mind adapts. The constant vibration of turbines becomes white noise. The soft hum of the air recyclers becomes comfort. For many, the submarine feels more stable than land itself. A world of constant temperature, steady motion, and mechanical heartbeats. When sailors wake, they step into the narrow artery of the passageway, lined with pipes, wires, and labeled panels. They shave in sinks smaller than those on airplanes, each shoulder to shoulder in a mess deck that could barely fit a small cafe, and then begin their next shift. Noise discipline is sacred. A dropped wrench, a slammed door, or even loud conversation can carry through the metal hull, echoing through compartments or worse, revealing the boat's position to someone listening miles away. Every sound is deliberate, controlled. The crew moves like an orchestra, quiet, precise, in rhythm with the pulse of the ship. Among them are the cooks, culinary specialists trained to perform small miracles. The galley, or kitchen, is no larger than a food truck, yet it serves 4 complete meals a day to more than 130 people. Each dish is planned weeks ahead, every calorie, every portion measured. Before the submarine leaves port, they load around 15,000 pounds of food, about 160 pounds per sailor. For the first few weeks, every space is stuffed with supplies. Cans and boxes fill the floor, shelves, and even the spaces under bunks. Some shower stalls are packed to the ceiling with dry goods, covered with boards so sailors can walk on top. It's like living inside a floating pantry. As days pass, the crew quite literally eats its way back to the floor. Fresh food lasts about 2 weeks. Apples, lettuce, milk, bread, all stored at precisely regulated temperatures. After that, it's frozen meat, dehydrated vegetables, and canned goods for the remainder of the patrol. Yet despite the limitations, submarine crews are famous across the Navy for having the best food. Open flames are forbidden. There's no oxygen to spare, so cooks use electric induction burners and convection ovens that recycle heat efficiently. Every pan is clipped down before the dive. Every tray is secured with straps. The work never stops. Breakfast merges into lunch, lunch into dinner. Then comes the midnight meal, mid-rats as sailors call it. Even those who eat in silence feel the relief of a hot plate, a cup of coffee, or the rare treat of ice cream deep below the surface. The menu is part of morale strategy. It rotates constantly so that no watch crew ends up eating the same meal every day. A night shift sailor might eat steak for breakfast or scrambled eggs at midnight. The goal isn't variety, it's sanity. Every meal is a reminder of normal life, a small anchor to the world above. Holidays are special. Even in the middle of the ocean, cooks find ways to celebrate. They decorate the mess deck with aluminum foil stars and paper flags, bake pies, roast turkeys, and play recorded Christmas music over the intercom. For a few hours, the submarine feels like home. Just one made of steel and silence. And yet, behind every meal, every breath, every drop of water lies an invisible machinery of survival. Submarines are closed worlds, self-contained and self-sustaining. Once submerged, they cannot depend on the surface for anything. Not air, not water, not heat. Everything that sustains human life must be created, recycled, and measured inside the hull. Oxygen is generated through a process called electrolysis. Seawater, drawn from outside, is split by electrical current into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is safely vented overboard. The oxygen is fed back into the air supply in carefully controlled doses. Too little, and the crew suffocates. Too much, and the atmosphere becomes dangerously flammable. Maintaining balance is a science in itself. The same precision applies to water. A distillation plant turns seawater into fresh water by heating it into steam and then condensing it back into liquid. A single submarine can produce tens of thousands of gallons every day, enough to drink, cook, and even shower. But conservation is still strict. A typical sailor shower lasts 3 minutes. Water on, water off, soap up, rinse, done. Every drop is logged. Even waste is managed with engineering elegance. Toilets feed into vacuum tanks that compress and store sewage until it can be safely released in international waters. Dry waste, plastic wrappers, paper, packaging, is compacted into metal cylinders, weighted and ejected through special disposal units so they sink to the ocean floor. Nothing floats to the surface. Silence and invisibility extend even to trash. This hidden choreography of machines and discipline allows a submarine to stay underwater for up to 90 days, sometimes more. The nuclear reactor that powers it can run for decades. The only true limit is food and the endurance of the people who live there. And that endurance isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, communal. Inside the steel walls, the crew becomes something more than a team. They become a single organism. Each sailor's comfort depends on another's precision. Each life depends on the collective calm of the whole. They develop their own culture, their own language of glances and gestures. Personal space is a curtain and a locker. Privacy is measured not in walls, but in silence. You learn to sense when someone needs to be left alone, even though you can never actually be alone. Humor becomes medicine. Movie nights in the mess deck, card games in the engine room, a birthday cake baked from ration mix and cooked in a pan no bigger than a shoebox. Laughter travels through the hull like sonar. It keeps the ship alive in its own way. Beneath that laughter is pressure, literal and psychological. The hull holds thousands of tons of seawater back, with a thickness of only a few inches of steel. And everyone aboard knows it. You can't see the ocean, but you can feel it in your bones. When the submarine dives, the sound changes. A long groan from the hull, a creak that reminds every sailor that physics, not faith, keeps them alive. The awareness never disappears. It's what turns ordinary discipline into ritual precision. Every action is practiced until it becomes muscle memory. Emergencies are rehearsed weekly. Fire, flood, loss of power, reactor shutdown. Scenarios that would terrify most people are simulated again and again until reaction becomes instinct. Because if a real emergency comes, there is no help. There is no surface to run to, no sky to call for rescue. Survival depends entirely on how calm 130 people can remain when surrounded by thousands of tons of black water. That calm is tested daily in smaller ways. The same corridors, the same faces, the same tasks. No escape from your crewmates, no true solitude. To preserve sanity, submariners build rhythm out of monotony. Exercise bikes stand beside torpedoes. Elastic bands replace weights. Every few days, the crew gathers for movie night, using a projector aimed at a sheet strung between pipes. They cheer old comedies, quote lines in unison, laugh too loudly, because laughter down here is oxygen of its own kind. Sometimes they recreate small pieces of home. Sunday morning pancakes, a handwritten newspaper taped to the mess deck wall, a quiz night run by the sonar team. Even the smallest rituals matter. They remind the crew that they are still part of a larger world, even if the sea has swallowed their horizon. Communication with home is sparse and heavily filtered. Short, delayed messages are sent through secure channels. No details, no coordinates, just fragments. All well. Thinking of you families send updates back, equally brief. Months can pass between replies. When a message finally arrives, it's read again and again until the paper softens. In a life ruled by machinery, those words are the only thing that feels human. The mental toughness this demands cannot be taught in a classroom. It's selected. Every submariner goes through psychological screening before joining the force. They're looking not for aggression, but for steadiness. People who can work in silence, think clearly under pressure, and live comfortably in close quarters. The result is a crew that functions like a single nervous system. A glance replaces a sentence. A raised eyebrow can be an order. Mutual respect is absolute, because trust is the only real currency underwater. Training never ends. To earn the Silver Dolphin's pin, the mark of a qualified submariner. A sailor must learn every system on the boat: life support, propulsion, weapons, navigation, emergency repair. They're tested relentlessly until they can trace the path of any pipe or cable by touch alone. Only then do they wear the dolphins, and with them, the responsibility to know what to do when things go wrong. It's not a badge of pride, it's a promise. There have been moments when that promise was all that stood between survival and disaster. In 2009, a US submarine near Guam suffered a fire in the engine room. The crew sealed bulkheads, cut power, and fought the blaze in darkness, guided only by training and trust. They saved the ship and everyone aboard without surfacing once. Across the Atlantic, in 2024, Britain's HMS Vengeance spent an unprecedented 201 days underwater, nearly 7 months without sunlight. The technology made it possible, but discipline made it bearable. Even routine missions test the limits of endurance. The USS Missouri once logged 163 days submerged, its crew rotating through the same cramped routines, eating the same rations, breathing air made from the ocean around them. When they finally surfaced, the first breath of real wind felt alien, sharp, wet, electric. For a moment, they realized how far from ordinary life they'd been. The paradox of submarine life is that the deeper they go, the quieter it becomes. The ocean muffles everything except what's inside the hull. The hum of pumps, the soft click of switches, the occasional creak like distant thunder. That silence can be soothing or suffocating. The difference lies in trust. Trust in the machinery, in procedures, and most of all, in one another. When the patrol ends and the submarine rises through layers of blue toward daylight, the change feels unreal. After months of darkness, sunlight floods through the open hatch like a living thing. The crew climbs onto the deck, blinking, pale, silent at first, then laughing, shouting, tasting air that hasn't passed through filters. Around them stretches an ocean that suddenly seems impossibly wide. They've lived as ghosts, unseen protectors of coastlines and shipping lanes, ready to disappear again at a moment's notice. Their world is measured in feet, seconds, and heartbeats. Yet they carry within them the quiet confidence that while others sleep above, they have kept watch below. Every submarine is a city of secrets. Nuclear power, acoustic silence, and human endurance fused into one moving fortress. But at its core, it's still a collection of people trying to live ordinary lives in extraordinary conditions, sharing coffee, writing letters, baking bread, telling jokes about the surface they haven't seen in months. They are America's, Britain's, and humanity's silent guardians, proof that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it hums quietly beneath the waves, steady as a heartbeat. If this glimpse beneath the ocean gave you a new respect for the people who live there, share their story. Leave a comment, press like, and subscribe for more unseen worlds. The machines, the rituals, and the humans who make them possible.